Welcome back. Many thanks for staying with us. Well, it's the first trading day for the week at the Nigerian equities market, and the markets were down 0.50% at intraday. Let's join Temple Ashaju to give us a feel of how things are going on the trading floor. Temple, it would seem the market had reversed last week's positive sentiments at intraday. How's the market faring now, and what other news is making the round in the market today?
A bit more of profit taking at this point in time across the major counters. If you look at the likes of Dangote Cement, which for last week gained by 10.11%, at this point in time is down by more than 2%. And that indicates some kind of profit taking on that particular counter. Dangote, as we speak, is now trading at 180 naira as against 195 naira that it had opened at today. So that just explains the kind of sentiment we're seeing in the market. Across the industrial sector, we've also seen losses at this time on WAPCO, which is down some 6.25%. But we have a bit of gains in CCNN, which is one of the major movers on that particular segment as well. If you look at the banking names, a lot of them are currently down. We've seen huge volume traded across the GT Bank shares, across Zenith Bank shares. In fact, in spite of the fact that Zenith Bank made a statement available to the stock exchange explaining its position, or the position of its directors, talking about the approval of the 2018 financial year audited financial statements. The bank explains that it is making those statements available to the central bank, and subsequently it will make it available to the Nigerian Stock Exchange. So as we speak, market is still down. We're down some 0.87%. But anything can change with the way things are going right now in the market. Seplat is currently giving room for more investors to come in as well. It's down some 7.99%. That's about 8%. But if anything changes, then it means we'll get some positive change going forward. Or basically, the losses that we might record on this first trading day of the week may be marginal.
Thank you, Temple. Well, moving away from the markets now, as the global elite meet in Davos for the annual World Economic Forum, the executive director of Oxfam International, Winnie Byanyima, says the gap between the rich and the poor is growing and fueling global anger. Ms. Byanyima believes that governments are increasingly underfunding the public services and failing to clamp down on tax dodging.
Tax systems that put a high burden on the poor mean public services are underfunded, stretching the gap between rich and poor and fueling global public anger. That's the belief of the executive director of Oxfam International, Winnie Byanyima. The Nairobi-headquartered charity said in a report that a new billionaire was created every 2 days last year, just as the poorest half of the world's population saw their wealth decline by 11%. The report, released on Monday, January the 21st, as political and business leaders gather for the annual World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland, said governments are increasingly underfunding public servants and failing to clamp down on tax dodging. Billionaire fortunes increased by 12% last year, or $2.5 billion a day, while the 3.8 billion poorest people saw their wealth drop $500 million every day.
So last year alone, we saw billionaire wealth increase by $2.5 billion every day, while the wealth of the bottom half of humanity, 3.8 billion, was dropping by $500 million a day. This is a trend. It just doesn't happen just once. So we're seeing some progress, but not enough. So we're here in Davos, I'm here in Davos, to call on governments to wake up and take up their responsibility and tax fairly, tax wealth, and put money in the public services that people need.
The charity said tax rates for the rich and corporations have been cut in recent decades, and when government fails to tax the wealthy, they pass the tax burden onto the poor people through consumer levies like value-added tax.
And elsewhere, Zimbabwe's economic crisis is biting hard. Before prices spiked in the country this month, A cab driver and father of 6, Victor Makazu, could go for nearly 2 weeks with groceries worth about $45. But now he can barely last for 7 days on that same budget. Zimbabwe's economy hit the rocks as inflation soared to a new 10-year high of 42% on January the 17th, threatening President Emmerson Mnangagwa's efforts to revive an economy afflicted by acute dollar shortages.
Zimbabweans have seen their money being wiped by inflation, which soared to a new 10-year high of 42% on Thursday, January 17, and threatens President Emmerson Mnangagwa's efforts to revive an economy afflicted by acute dollar shortages. The Southern African nation adopted the US dollar in 2009 when it dumped its hyperinflation-wrecked currency. But its citizens can do little but watch as the money in their bank accounts loses value compared with cash. This has prompted demands from businesses and government workers for hard currency seen as a store of value.
Like rice.
This packet of rice, I bought it for $4.59. Previously, it was $1.89. Bath soap, $2.29. It was less than $1.
It was less than $1.
This small piece of beef, less than a kilogram, is costing $4.94. Previously, it was $1 something. These groceries cost me $45, but will not last me a week with my family of 6.
Few can blame Zimbabweans for fleeing a sense of deja vu as the country grapples with shortages of fuel and medicines, a result of shortages of dollars. Mnangagwa announced a 150% increase in the price of fuel, a move analysts said would have a trickle-down effect on prices of other basic goods and feed into inflation. Gilbert Kekpe, a teacher at a Harare private school, patiently queued for petrol at a filling station in the center of town on Thursday for 4 hours, but he was still nowhere near the pump. They have a name for that in Zimbabwe: speculative queuing.
Before the fuel price increase, I could fill this car, the tank, at a cost of about $115. Now I need about $264 to fill up the tank. And for me to just go to work and go back home without any other errands, I need 2 full tanks a month. That adds up to more than $500 now. And to be able to meet this cost, I would have to probably cut on some other things or simply decide not to drive to work.
Public taxis, locally known as combis, have at least doubled fares in the last 2 weeks. The government announced on Tuesday that it had given public workers an allowance of between 5 and 23% of their monthly pay.
And that's it on Business Incorporated today. Thank you for staying with us. I'm Emana Amawe. Have a great week ahead.